Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in today. Today is November, oh, geez, I'm losing track of days. November 13th, Friday the 13th, a lucky day. Um, anyway, thanks for tuning in, and I appreciate all of your support for my station. And just looking at an astrology chart for today, and I was just feeling like I wanted to tell you all the story about the book, my first published book, which is Trapped Souls, a story of healing. And you can see the cover of the book, and it's in the chat window. But anyway, there's all this Scorpio energy going on right now, and no wonder I'm feeling like I want to talk about the spirits, about the ghosts. And I've been doing this work since, I would say, I think that would be probably 1998 at least. And typically in astrology, when you have a planet that wakes up, especially one of the outer planets, your life changes forever. And in 1995, October of 1995, Neptune in my chart, which is right in my midheaven in Scorpio, which is the highest part in the chart, meaning who you are, how the world sees you. You know, typically it's your reputation, what you do for your career. That planet woke up from being retrograde by birth. And I almost think it was sort of a protection for me, because the sensitivity that came with Neptune waking up, Neptune's energy influences dreams. It influences your psychic ability. It influences belief systems. It's the planet of unconditional love. And it's also, though, a planet that can bring extreme suffering when it is poorly aspected by birth. So anyway, the long story short is that planet woke up in October of 1995 in my chart, and my whole life changed. When I started studying astrology in 1998 and learned how to do progressions and saw that happened in my chart at exactly the time that my whole life changed, it was totally amazing. It's just totally amazing what astrology can do. And also, you have to work with spirit, though. You have to be able to open up your heart to spirit when you're doing this work. You have to have an open heart. You have to have light in your heart. You cannot be scared. These are just souls. When you experience a ghost in your house, when you have ghosts on your land, these are typically souls that are trapped here for some reason. And it's interesting because my sister, she has had people die in her arms so many times. And my work is exactly the opposite. I work with them when they're on the other side. I mean, I've had a bunny die in my arms. I've had dogs die in my arms, but never a person. My work has always been to help the souls that are trapped here on this earth. And I use a combination of shamanic practices, one of them which is called psychopump. I use that. I'm trained through my really awesome teacher, Julianne Santini, and she studied with Sandra Ingerman, so very, very lucky to have had this education. But I use that technique, and I do an astrology orrery chart at the time that I have a question. And so it's the birth of a chart that is created upon the birth of a question. And so the story behind the book that I wrote, which is called Trapped Souls, a story, Trapped Souls, A Story of Healing. And it starts out with saying that every place has a story to tell, especially places filled with lots of history. And on June 5th of 2017, I had the opportunity, along with my daughter Lauren, to tour the Lake County Historical Museum. Lauren is a history major, and she was offered a private tour of the museum by the curator, Bobby Grenier. I love history also, so I asked if I could join the tour and was invited to tag along. So this is how my book starts out, and it is available on Amazon, Kindle. You can get it through Kindle. If you, like me, I'd rather read on my computer. But this is a story that is true. And the other day, I've had the most unbelievable experiences. This particular place, the Lake County Historical Museum, used to be, it's in Tavares, Florida, and it used to be a courthouse. And there was one ghost when I journeyed in through a shamanic journey to talk to the spirits that were attached there. There was one spirit that was very dark, and he would not let me see him, and he was over in the corner, and I asked him if he would like to go. I said, this is not heaven. This is not meant to be your resting place. Oops, sorry, I thought I saw somebody pass by my window. So I talked to him, but he was, staunch that he was not going to move. He was going to stay where he was. He said, I am not going, and that was it. So that's fine. That there was a whole line of spirits that formed like a chain, and they walked together. They all held hands, and they all walked together, and they walked out the side door of the museum, and there we opened up, myself and my spirit teachers. I work with a team. I call them the Great Circle of Mothers, and there's one that's always very, very, very strong that I work with, and I used to call him Bighorn because that's what he looked like, a big old Native American man, and just had this beautiful, beautiful energy to him. I mean, every time I see him, I want to just run over and hug him. And I realized that was my way of seeing God, because I do have Native American heritage. I'm fifth generation Abenaki, it's pronounced Abenaki. That would have been a great, I think, grandmother. So just 1 second, I'll be right back. Sorry, Hunter. I have to got my door open. I had purses. You want to take them back?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, thanks. Sorry. Sorry, everyone, about that. I had my daughter's dog in with me, and I forgot my door open, so he had to go home. Anyway, where was I? Oh, so we headed toward the door. We headed toward the door, and there was this, as I said, you can see that on the front page cover of my book. There's a stream of flow, a group or a line of people. They were ghosts. They were all spirits that were stuck and trapped there because they used to chain prisoners in the basement. I mean, there was energy attached to all the history items. There's 4 museums in that building now. And So a lot happened there, and so these spirits were all forming like what I would call a human chain, and they all I walked with them, my spirit guides and my spirit teachers. We walked with them and we went out the side door. And it was there that we opened up this big portal of light. You might want to call that a stairway to heaven. And it was the most incredible, most beautiful experience to see all those spirits move on to their heaven. And it did take some convincing with some of them, because when a soul dies through a traumatic experience, they get caught in what I see as a loop, kind of like a hamster on a wheel. They think that they're still alive. They don't know that they've died because of the trauma, the tragedy. And so I was just telling my friend this morning that, I've had to convince some ghosts that this is not where they meant to be. And I mean, I've had to actually, there's times I've had to just trick them because, especially when you're doing like soul retrieval with shamanism, shamanic practices, sometimes you have to trick the ghost because they're just not going to give in. So I've had to do that once or twice, but that's mostly in soul retrieval. But it's not the thing to do, but that's typically when in soul stealing happens, when it can happen as easily as someone thinking badly about you or wanting to control you. That's another story. So I'm going to finish with this story because I think that there's just so many stories. I've done a lot of ghost clearing, and I'll tell you, down here in Florida, you need a team for a lot of these things. And I've actually started forming teams to be able to clear and help some of these trapped souls because it's so dense. The history here goes so deep. And I want to say that one of the coolest things that happened, and there's no mistakes on this earth. The soul that I was telling you about who would not leave the museum, that I told you he was dark and he said, I'm staying here. Well, fast forward from 2017 to 2019 in December, I had a efficiency to rent out, and someone referred this fellow whose name I won't say, well, I guess I can say it, his Doug McCall. His father was the famous Willis McCall. If you look up the Groveland Four, they're all over YouTube. There's books written about Willis McCall. And so Doug came to see me about renting the efficiency, and we sat down and we were talking, and then all of a sudden, this light came up around his right side. And I didn't know what, I knew that was a spirit. I mean, I've seen ghosts, I've communicated. Ghosts only come to me when they want help, when it's very serious. That's always been the way it happens for me. And so I told Doug, I said that you've got, this is what I do. And you've got this golden light around your right shoulder. I said, has your father passed away? And he turned pure white and he goes, my father was Willis McCall. And I almost fell off my chair because he was the spirit in my book. And he came a couple more times, but Doug ended up renting the efficiency behind me. And it turns out that history has really not correctly, there's books written about Willis McCall. There's lots of information out there about Willis McCall. And Willis McCall was actually, he saved the Groveland Four from being hanged because they were innocent. He took them to his house so that he could save them from being hanged. And so these books that are written about him are there's maybe an ounce of truth. So I feel very badly about how things get mixed up and how, people's stories can really injure somebody. So anyway, Doug and I became friends, and just a really, really good man, a really nice guy. And we went to visit him the other night, and because he asked me, he said, there's on my land, I think we have ghosts. He said, a lot of my family's owned this for 100 years, and people have drowned here. There's been a lot of trauma. There's been a lot of wonderful things, but there's also been trauma. And immediately when I stepped into the house, I got a headache, a really bad headache. And I just felt like I wanted to run away. The energy was too much. And so we did end up staying for dinner. And Doug got out some pictures of his. And I just want to tell you that when I did the journey you can read about this in my book, when I did the journey to talk to the spirits at the Lake County Historical Museum, I was shown that there was a hanging tree. If you're facing the museum and the door that all the spirits went out, to the left of that door, there used to be a hanging tree there. The spirit showed this to me. It's in my book. You can read about it. And Doug's pulling out pictures the other day, and he pulled out a picture of what was a hanging tree exactly in the spot where I got chills on this, exactly in the spot where the spirits had showed me there used to be a hanging tree. Now there's just a walkway and a couple trees and a couple chairs to sit down. So, so many people are so fearful of ghosts, and they can be extremely dangerous if they died tragically, or if they died in war, or they were stuck in a place of anger, or somebody was holding them back because they didn't want to let them go. And so there's all kinds of reasons for ghosts. And so that's just kind of in a nutshell, a story about trapped souls, and more to come. I'm going to tell you a lot more stories, because I actually have another book that I'm working on right now that has all these stories in it. Years and years and years of different stories. One that I'm recalling right now, another one was I worked with a team up north in Plymouth, Massachusetts. An old 1700 circa home. And the poor man who owned it got put into a mental institution because the ghosts were driving him crazy. And there was nothing wrong with him, just nobody would believe him. And there was a team of us. There was, it was Terry and Sandy and Patty, myself, the owner and his wife. And I did a chart, an orrery chart on that as well. And then Patty is a medium, so we worked together, and that was one incredible story. So I'll save that for the next show. But if anybody has any questions on ghosts or spirits, I'd love to hear from you, love to hear your comments. And if you need any help, definitely reach out. Scorpio energy is very closely related with death and the process of dying, transcendence. It rules the eighth house naturally in astrology, and it is ruled by Pluto and Mars. So there is an intensity to Scorpio energy. And it's typically when we have Scorpio energy, it begins like October 21st. Then we have Halloween, and they always say all the ghouls come out. Well, the veils between the worlds are very, very thin with Scorpio energy, and they are very thin right now with what we've got going on. I've got chills all over. The veils between the worlds are very thin right now, and so there's lots of spiritual activity. They're trying to help us here on Earth. And so if there's anything that you can do is connect with those spirits of beings of light, because they're here to help us. They truly are here to help us. And so everyone, I want to say thanks for tuning in to Turn to the Stars. You can find my book, Trapped Souls, on Amazon. Just search for Trapped Souls, A Story of Healing by Andrea Klim. And you can download it as Kindle, the whole thing, the cover, everything. It was a lot of fun doing it. So anyway, thanks for tuning in. I hope you all be well. And like my daughter taught me this. It's Latin for take care, you are well. And it's cura ut valias. So thanks for tuning in, everyone. I look forward to talking to you very soon. Have a terrific weekend. Do something to get away. Do something to feed your spirit. I'm going to the beach tomorrow. I need it. I can't function without getting some nature spirit. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Have a terrific weekend.